Are you ready to expand your life and reality? Join us for the next hour with Jamie Bates as she shares life-changing thoughts, techniques, and awarenesses to help you expand your reality. Listen every Wednesday from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This live broadcast is produced by Haggy Shack Radio and simulcasted over Cosmic Reality Radio.
Alrighty, and you are live.
Thank you so much. Hello and welcome. I am Jamie Bates, consciousness facilitator and expander of realities. My mission with this radio show is to really create greater awareness of what is possible and to expand you beyond the limitations of this reality. I am grateful that you are joining me today. So today, my show is about using your gifts and capacities to create more for everyone just by being you. So today I would love to invite you into the space of who you be, the knowing of what you know, and releasing and unwinding the places where you're making yourself wrong for being you. So today we're going to go to that true space of who you be, and we're going to really kind of play in this story of expansion to really get you into the loop of judging you. So let's go ahead and put our barriers down, our barriers down, our barriers down, our barriers down. We're going to go ahead and expand out. Let's go ahead and make yourself as big as the state that you're in. All the way out and all the way down and all the way up. And we're just expanding our being. There's no need for you to do anything. This is just an exercise to get you into more space of you. So go ahead and make yourself as big as the country that you're in. All the way out and all the way down and all the way up. And go ahead and make yourself as big as the planet that we're on. All the way out. Keep going, keep going, keep going, all the way through, becoming one with everyone and everything. And the universe. All the way out, all the way out. And the multiverse, multiple universes. And let's times that by a million, times that by a million, times that by a million, times that by a million. All the way out to the space of who you be as the infinite being that you be. So you are an infinite being, and your body is a receiver. It's always perceiving the energy around everyone in everything, right? You may identify yourself as an empath. Maybe you identify yourself as just being really aware. Whatever you call yourself, essentially, you are an infinite being with a body that is a receiving organ. Your body is continuously receiving information about everyone, everywhere. And somewhere in this reality, they started buying us into this reality, or they started telling us that what you were receiving was wrong, and that there was no way that you could know the things that you know. And today, I'm here to help you undo that wrongness. Everywhere someone told you what you knew was bad, or everywhere someone told you that you were judging other people, or maybe even that you were judgmental. What if it really has nothing to do with judgment at all? What if the whole story around judgment is nothing but a lie? Yeah, just want to feel that for a second. What if you are not judgmental at all? What if no thoughts you had in your head had anything to do with the system of judgment? What if the system of judgment is only there to keep you looping in a place where you're making yourself wrong? More space, more space, more space. So if you're like me, which if you're listening to this show, I know that you are, and at a very young age, or potentially at some point in your life, you started to realize that you knew things that maybe you weren't supposed to know. Maybe you said things that you weren't supposed to say, right? Did you ever have those instances in your life where, I don't know, you're 8 years old, right? And you see the neighbor, and you look at the neighbor and you say, man, that's a grouchy old man. And your mom says, oh, don't say that. That's mean. You're not supposed to say that kind of stuff about people, right? And somewhere we have identified with this idea that even looking at if someone is grouchy, it's like a wrongness. When in all actuality, like even looking at someone and identifying them as like being mean, somewhere we have made the things that people are being like a wrongness because we've internalized and identified the emotions and we've personalized those constructs. And so when we identify with what we can perceive around someone, like let's say somebody's being mean, someone's acting out in mean, in unkindness, okay, let's just say. Somewhere we take what we're aware of and we personalize it and we create it as a structure of judgment. Instead of realizing that, it really has nothing to do with anyone or anything. It has to do with the constructs and structures in which they are functioning in. Okay, but here's where, and maybe using like the grouchy old man isn't quite the best example. But essentially what I want you to look at is I want you to kind of turn these constructs around and get that. What is going on is, as a receiver, I am aware where other people are functioning at and what emotions they are holding on to within their energy, space, and consciousness. And so are you. Okay? And so when you look at someone, you're going to instantaneously receive information that you can receive from them that tells you where they're functioning at, whether it be grouchy, whether it be unkind, whether it be mean. Maybe it's even happy. Okay? And somewhere in this reality, we have aligned with this idea that the structure of judgment means if someone's on this side of the structure of judgment, if they're unkind or they're being mean or they're being grouchy or they're being upset, it means that it's a negative thing. And then we have this other side of judgment where we have decided if someone's being happy or someone's being bright and cheerful or someone's being kind, it means that they're on the right side of the judgment scale, right? And we use the scale of judgment to perceive right and wrong and good and bad. Well, the thing is as an infinite being, we have the capacity to create all of these things. We all have the capacity to be unkind. We all have the capacity to be kind, right? We all have the capacity to be angry and mean, and we all have the capacity to be bright and sunshiny and happy. Okay? And what constructs we're standing in depends on how other people are going to receive us and how other people are going to internalize the information that they're receiving and what they are going to decide if they can receive that information or not. Now, in this reality, oftentimes we look at the scale of judgment, and if somebody's being grouchy, okay, for one, we don't like to acknowledge that they're being grouchy because somewhere we have identified with the idea that being grouchy is bad, right? And we don't like to identify bad things. So oftentimes we won't acknowledge that, you know, the old man next door is really, really grouchy. When in all actuality, actually acknowledging that he's being grouchy is actually being really, really kind. Because if I can acknowledge the old man as being grouchy next door, then that means I probably, if I can acknowledge he's being grouchy, then I don't have to put myself in a position where he's going to maybe act out being grouchy. I'm going to put myself in a situation where I can create ease for him. So if I'm aware that he's being grouchy, I probably don't want to do things that are going to upset him further, right? Now, oftentimes what happens is we will acknowledge that the old man next door is being grouchy, and then we'll resist against it. And what that resistance does will actually contribute to the grouchy in some way, shape, or form. And what that resistance does is it actually upholds the grouchiness more. Okay, now what does this have to do with really truly, stepping into your capacities as an infinite being? Well, what happens is, if you can actually truly start acknowledging people for where they're at and what they're functioning in, what actually starts to happen is you can actually be the space to actually help them change that. Now, oftentimes, like let's just take even the instance of the grouchy man next door. He may really not want to be grouchy anymore. He might not want to choose being grouchy. But maybe the whole block continuously looks at him and they're like, oh, he's so grouchy. Don't go over there. He's just going to yell at you. He's just going to, and they start projecting these points of views about what that looks like. Okay? Now you, as the amazing receiver that you are, you can actually look at that grouchiness and you can actually stand in this place where you don't agree with it, you don't resist and react to it, you don't defend it, you don't think it's right or wrong. You just actually acknowledge the space that he's choosing. And by actually being an acknowledgement to what someone's choosing, you actually give them the space to create something different. Yeah. Oftentimes I see so many people and I talk to people and they tell me, well, I'm empathic and I feel everything deeply. And I get it because I am too. I have always been that deep feeler, right? My whole life I've been feeling everyone's emotion and pain and upset. And I've had no idea what to do with it. And so what I would do is I would protect myself from it, right? I would push it away. I don't want to feel it. I don't want to be part of it. I don't want to be surrounded by it anymore. And so I would close myself off more and more and more and more and more until I became isolated. And I too ended up kind of being that I'll even say I even ended up being that defensive, kind of grouchy edge, right? Because I was so overwhelmed with everything I was receiving from everyone and everything. Yeah. And so when I started actually expanding and staying in this expanded space, and I actually started acknowledging everything I was aware of about the people around me. And I started to realize that just because I am aware that the old man next door is grouchy does not mean I have to do anything with it. I don't have to make him wrong. I don't have to make him right. I can just acknowledge the space that he is choosing and I can move on with my life. And when I started to do that through my day-to-day practice, what I realized was I knew a lot of things about a lot of people all the time. Things I didn't want to know. Things I didn't care to know. I didn't need to know everyone's life story in Myers. I just really didn't. I didn't need to go grocery shopping and find out about everyone I passed. I really didn't need to know that information. But the thing is when I stopped resisting that information and I actually started receiving the information, what actually ended up happening was I started to realize that I am the space of change. I have amazing gifts and capacities that I actually know what's going on for other people, and so do you. Your capacities may look a little bit different than mine, or maybe your capacities look exactly like mine. Maybe you spend your whole day weeding through other people's crap. I don't want to say crap, but it is crap, right? It's their stuff, it's not you. And all day long you're perceiving and receiving and perceiving and receiving, and it's exhausting. I used to not even be able to go to the mall. Because when I would go to the mall, it would be like the most exhausting thing. If I spent even an hour at the mall, I would come home and I would need to nap for like 3 or 4 hours. Because I just spent the whole hour resisting everyone's stuff. Like, nope, don't want to know that, don't want to know that, don't care, don't care, don't care, don't care. And when I actually really just started going, you know what? Here I am. I am space. I am just going to receive it. I'm just going to receive it. I'm just going to receive it. I'm just going to receive it. And I'm not going to do anything with it. I'm going to receive it. I'm going to pull it through. I'm going to push it out the other side. And I am just going to know that by allowing me to receive what's going on for you, I can actually help you change it. And I don't actually have to do anything. So when I say help you change it, it's kind of like, okay, let's take the example of like, let me see. Like even the grouchy neighbor next door, right? Everyone's continuously resisting that information. Like nobody wants to talk to them. Nobody wants to actually have a conversation. Nobody wants to actually look at it, right? And oftentimes we do this a lot in our families, our family units, right? Maybe we have an uncle or a cousin, or maybe half of our family. Potentially, maybe there's alcoholism in your family, or there's drug use in your family, and like nobody wants to talk about it, right? Well, they might talk about it when they're not around, but nobody actually wants to actually like. It's like a bad word. Like, oh, don't say so and so is an alcoholic because that's mean. But is it mean? Is it mean, or is it actually kind to actually call out what's actually going on so it can have the space of change? See, if we pretend like these words and these ideas are unkind, and we're not acknowledging what people are being, then what we're saying is we can't actually receive you. We can't actually accept you. We can't actually be the space of change for you, because we can't even allow ourselves to actually call out what's going on. Now, that doesn't mean that if you have an alcoholic in the family, you run over and go, oh my gosh, you're an alcoholic. No, not at all. But what it means is you can identify that person for what they're choosing, and can actually be space for them. Instead of making what they're choosing wrong, instead of making what's going on for them bad, like especially if we take of being an alcoholic. I mean, that's one of those things that has so much judgment around it, especially to family members around. And I get it. I grew up with alcoholics in my family. I know the hurt and the upset and the all of the stuff that comes along with that. But the thing is everything that's getting projected out is actually what's going on the inside as well. So anyone who's choosing alcoholism is probably dealing with the same pain that's going on with the family. Because what's actually going on is the alcohol is a mask, right, to actually cover up what that person is dealing with on the inside. And so then everyone in the family around is not only aware of the alcoholism, but they're aware of the hurt, they're aware of the upset, they're aware of the fear, they're aware of the pain, they're aware of all of it, right? And then that energy is actually projecting out. And then everyone around that person actually feels that way. Yeah, more space, more space, more space. I hope that makes sense. Just like the grouchy old man. When you see the grouchy old man, you feel grouchy. You react in the same way. When you see the alcoholic, you react in the same way. Because you're aware of what's actually going on the inside. When you get out of the polarity of it, when you get out of the fear of the definition around it, you get out of the judgment that it holds, and you realize that the judgment is only there as a marker. It's only there to identify. Yeah, more space, more space, more space, more space, more space, more space. What you are aware of is actually the kindest thing that you can be. Because when you start acknowledging that, let's take the example of the alcoholic in the family, is really just using alcohol to cover up the pain. You see that the projection of the pain that is showing up in the family is actually the same pain that exists within. And when you can actually receive that without a point of view, you actually become the space to be able to change it. And this is where being aware and being empathic has such a fine line of, gosh, I can't even think of the word I'm looking for. I know it's kind of these energies where it's like it almost quite makes sense, but it still is lacking a couple pieces of information. And let's just receive for a second. Because who you be and what you are aware of is actually key to creating more for everyone. When you get out of the definitions of the right and the wrong and the scale of judgment that is around it, you actually become the space of change. It's the fact that you are aware of it that is your gift. The fact that you can use what you know to unlock other people is part of the capacities of who you be. Yeah, more space, more space, more space, more space. Everywhere you have decided that you are judgmental and that you are wrong for what you know, yeah, let's go to all of those places and let's just expand them bigger and faster and bigger and faster, and let's just unwind all of them. The awareness of what you know is actually the kindest thing that you can be. When you start acknowledging what you know about people, the space that they are in, that's the space that actually allows the change. You are not judgmental. You are aware. You have always been aware. You have always known things about people that other people weren't willing to know. You have always been acknowledging things about people silently and then making yourself wrong for what it is that you know. And now is the time to unlock yourself from those paradigms. Now is the time to stop making yourself wrong for what you know. Now is the time to realize that you are not judgmental. You are aware. Yeah. I would like to take a break here in a moment because I have an exercise that I would like to take you through to allow yourself to process information differently so you don't have to get caught in this place where you're judging what people are choosing, or you feel like you're judging what people are choosing. Let me rephrase that. And actually allow yourself to just receive, no matter what people are being, no matter what people are doing. And really allow you to step into the true space of change that you be. So, Colleen, before I do that, can we go to a quick break? Are you available?
I am. When
Thank
we'll be
you.
back. Alrighty, and we are back.
All right, thank you. Okay, so looking at this space where you are not judgmental, you are aware, right? Looking at this space where being the space of what you know is actually truly the space that can provide the change. I want to share with you an exercise that I do beyond expanding, right? That really, really helps me to be able to be the space, to be able to use the capacities of what I know, the space of change that I be, to help other people and create more for other people. So essentially, let's take the example of the uncle that I at the beginning of the show here, that we'll say the alcoholic in the family, okay? And, you know, everyone kind of tiptoes around and like, oh, don't say anything, don't upset them. You know, everyone has all these points of view. A lot of people have a lot of hurt. Okay, well, what happens when you have hurt with someone? What happens when, like, especially like, let's take someone who's an alcoholic and you have hurt feelings with that person. What happens is you start projecting that energy of being hurt at that person. Well, that person is already hurt, okay? So they're projecting back their hurt. And so what happens is there becomes kind of this like force field of energies that are ping-ponging back and forth. And the thing is hurt people hurt people. And I know that that's like this, that's the same thing, right? But really, truly, if someone is hurt inside, if they're struggling with a lot of pain, they're gonna hurt other people, because that is a reflection of what's going on for them. Hurt people hurt people. So if I come in and I see that this person is an alcoholic and they're really struggling and they have a lot of pain going on around them, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to pull and I'm going to receive from that person. And what that's actually going to create, that's going to actually help them create a different space. So before I even explain how to do this, I want to explain first and foremost that everyone always has choice, okay? I'm not taking anyone's choice from them. I'm not like creating something else. What I'm actually doing is I'm actually receiving from them from the space that they're in. So essentially, when we go to that expanded out place, right? What we're going to do is, and I would love for each and every one of us to even do this today, to kind of take any situation in your life where you have someone in your life that you have a lot of angst with currently. Maybe you have some pain going on. Maybe there's a situation where you would like to help someone, but you just haven't been able to. I want you to take that person, okay? So we all have a visual. And so this is how you're going to use who you are to actually help them, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to put that person out in front of us, okay? Whoever that person is, I'm going to use the example of the alcoholic for myself, right? I'm going to put that person out in front of us. And I'm going to put everything I am aware of around that person. So if you put somebody out in front of you, I want you to put everything that you know about the situation, about the person. I want you to put it all out in front of you, okay? Now what we're going to do is we are going to pull. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to pull pure positive life force energy, because this universe is abundant with pure positive life force energy. It's everywhere. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this pure positive life force energy and we're going to pretend that, so we have the person out in front of us, okay, and the situation out in front of us. And we're going to put that pure positive life force energies behind that person, okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to pull this pure positive life force energy from behind the person. We're going to pull it through that person and situation. Just pure, positive, life force energy through the person, through the situation. We're going to pull it through the space in between. And we're going to receive it into our bodies and into our beings. Our beings are really, really expanded. Remember, and we're going to pull it all the way through. And what we're going to do is we're just going to pull that energy all the way through, and we're going to pull it all the way through the space of who we be, and we're just going to pull it all the way out the other side. And we're just going to pull for a moment here. And we're just pulling this pure positive life force energy. We're not having a point of view. We're not listening to any head noise we have inside of our head. We're essentially just taking this person and this situation, and we're just pulling this pure positive life force energy from behind, through the space in between. We're receiving it into our bodies and into our beings, and we're pulling it out the other side. And we're just pulling and receiving. And so what we're actually doing here is we are receiving the situation and the person in totality, okay? We're receiving everything about all of it. We don't have any points of view. We're not listening to anything that's coming up in our head. We're just pulling and receiving. And this is, we're not technically necessarily pulling from them, right? We're just pulling pure positive life force energy from behind them, through the space in between. We're pulling that energy into our bodies and beings, and we're just letting it go right out the other side. But what we're actually doing is we're receiving that person. We're receiving the energy, space, and consciousness of who that person is. It's giving us more and more information about what's going on, about how they're functioning. And again, it's not mental, it's just information energetically. Okay? And you don't have to do anything with the information. You're just receiving the information and allowing the information to go all the way through and out the other side. Yeah, And you're just going to pull and receive. Now, what this actually creates is, let's take the example of what I was using initially, is the energy of the alcoholic. Okay, oftentimes, again, people don't really want to talk about it, right? People don't really want to acknowledge what's truly going on. People continuously are projecting wrongness at this person, right? And again, like, I'm using this as a generalization that doesn't necessarily always have to be exactly how it is, but looking at patterns, that's generally how things like that are created. Not even just alcoholism. I'm talking about people are being anything, like if the neighbor's grouchy, whatever it is, right? It's like oftentimes what happens is people acknowledge it, but acknowledge it in a way where they will project it back because that's what they are aware of, right? So the space of you are aware of it, you receive it, and what you're actually doing is you are actually allowing that person a different possibility. Because now I am receiving from that alcoholic in totality. I am receiving the space of who that person is, and I am actually receiving it and pulling it all the way through. I'm not making it wrong. I'm not making it right. I'm not making it, I'm not defending it. I'm not aligning with it. I'm not reacting to it. I'm just receiving. Now, all of a sudden, what is created for that person that I am receiving from is new space. Now, all of a sudden, something different, because not only did I just create an energy behind them, right, of this pure positive life force energy flowing in, and actually a space in front of them, because I'm actually pulling this pure positive life force energy through them, I'm actually creating them a different space to be able to exist. And I am receiving the information without having a point of view, without even listening to what my head is telling me about it. Like, I don't even really want to know. I just want to receive the information into my body and pull it all the way throughout the other side. I don't even want to keep it. I just want this person to have some relief, to have the space of something different. Now, the thing about doing this is that person does not have to choose anything different. This is just a possibility I am offering them. They can go right back to the choice that they were already choosing, and they can start functioning in that same energy, space, and consciousness they've been functioning in. They do not have to choose something different. This is just one possibility. Now, the thing is what I found with actually being this space is, number one, it helps me to be able to function in this reality when all of a sudden I don't actually have to mentally process anybody's stuff. I don't have to look at the little girl in the grocery store and feel sad for her. I can pull and receive from her. I can pull that pure positive life force energy. You know, we all know the little girl at the grocery store that we see, right? And we see her and her mom's yelling at her and everybody's upset and we can just see the little heartbreak in her little, and it breaks her heart a little bit. Right? We've all been in those situations. So instead of me feeling heartbroken, what I can actually do is I can actually pull positive life force energy from behind that little baby girl. I can pull it through her. I can pull it through the space in between, and I can receive her in totality, that energy, space, and consciousness of who she is. I can receive it, and I can pull it all the way through. And I can actually receive her for a moment, even if it's just a small moment in time. And I can actually give her a different possibility. I can pull and receive from the lady I see picking out produce, and I can feel her heartbreak like a mile away. I don't have to do anything with any of it, but if I pull and receive from her, I know that I actually became a space of something different for her, because there may be no one at home that is receiving from her. I can go about my day, and instead of putting my barriers up and my walls up and resisting all of the information that I know, I can just become this amazing receiver of information that I do not even keep because I stay out of my head. I don't listen to all that babble. I just pull and receive, and I just pull and receive, and I just pull and receive, and I just keep walking, and I know that that pure positive life force energy now is flowing and flowing and flowing and flowing. And I'm not actually keeping any of it. I don't have to actualize it as my own. I don't have to bring that baggage home. I don't have to think about it all night. I am just being of the receiver that I truly be. That is who I am. I have mad skills and capacities at receiving information from everyone and everything. I'm empathic. I'm aware. I was already receiving that information. I was already processing that information. I was already using my scale of judgment to define if what I knew was right or wrong or good or bad. This is information and things that you are already doing. But now, when you use it to this level, what you're actually doing is you're creating a space of change. Because all of a sudden, now you're just like this big wave of pure positive life force energy, right? You're like this catalyst of change. Where everywhere you go and everywhere you're at and everyone you see, you're just pulling this pure positive life force energy from behind them, through the space in between, into your body and being, and you're just receiving it and pulling it out the other side. And you're just allowing that information to flow through, and you're not making it right, and you're not making it wrong, and you're not making it anything. You're just a receiver. This is your gift. This is your capacity. You have been receiving information your whole life. Now's the time to stop making that wrong. Now's the time to stop beating yourself up for what you know. Now's the time to stop comparing the scales of judgments, trying to figure out if you're right or wrong, or you're being good or you're being bad. It's all irrelevant. You're just a receiver, receiving information from everyone all the time. And I am going to say that being a receiver includes receiving information from everyone. So, like for me, I have a daughter who lives in Chicago right now. She's 18 years old. And one of my first things I really wanted to make sure that she knew is how to be a receiver. I wanted her to know how to be a receiver. Because the thing is when you are receiving information from everyone and everything, then you know, like let's say you get on the subway and you're pulling from everyone and everything, and you pull and you feel this like really strange kind of yucky energy coming from someone over to the left, and you look over there and you are aware that that person is capable of doing terrible things. That information. Because if you know what people are capable of creating, all of a sudden you have awareness. So often as an empath or as a person who is aware, we become aware that someone is capable of doing something terrible like abuse or rape or whatever, right? And we go to the space where it's like, oh, we have to resist it. We have to protect ourselves. No, you don't want to protect yourself from that information. You want to know it all. Because the thing is your knowing actually is your protection. Because if I sit next to someone at the subway and I know that that person is capable of creating something terrible, you better bet I'm going to acknowledge that. Because the thing is someone that's capable of doing something terrible and you acknowledge it and you look at them and you know, I know you're capable of doing something terrible. Hey, guess what? They went away from you really fast. Because someone who's capable of doing something terrible does not want to be around someone who knows. They want to be around someone who doesn't want to know. because then they can take advantage of that person. That person is vulnerable. If someone has points of view about, let's even take, I like to use this example often in things I talk about because this is something that I know all of us have a lot of upset around it. Like even if we take the example of someone who is willing to abuse animals, okay? You know, that's a terrible, terrible thing, right? We don't want to be around someone who abuses animals. Well, if you protect yourself and you have a lot of points of view around someone who abuses animals, you're never going to be when an animal abuser moves in next door because you've just protected yourself from that information. And you have decided that that's terrible. Once you use your scale of judgment to put in the idea of right or wrong or good or bad, once you've stored it as bad, what do we do with bad things? We protect ourselves from bad things. Okay? Once you protect yourself from something bad, you can never see when someone is willing to do bad things. So how often do we hear from people, and even maybe in your own life, have you even heard yourself saying, I never knew they were capable of that? You never knew they were capable of that because you had a point of view that was bad, and you used your scale of judgment, and you blocked yourself from receiving it. When you start receiving from everyone and everything, and you become aware that someone around you is capable of abusing animals, you're going to call that energy out, even if it's just in your head. Like, I will call someone out real quick. Oh, I see you. I know what you're capable of. And let me tell you what. When I call them out, what I actually do is energetically mark that person. Okay? I'm going to mark that person. I see you. I know what you're capable of. And then I'm going to go about my business. Then you come along and you're aware too. Right? And you pull and receive, and you see that too. You mark that person as well. I see you. I know what you're capable of. Mark that person as well. And what ends up happening is that person gets marked so many times they can no longer hide. And when they can no longer hide, they either have to stop doing the bad things or they get into trouble for doing the bad things. And either way, we just use our gifts and capacities to create more. It's time that we stop making ourselves wrong for being an empath. It's time to stop making ourselves wrong and judging ourselves for knowing what we know. It's time to turn up what we know. It's time to know so strong what you know and acknowledge what you know with such capacity. Yeah, more space, more space, more space. That you just become that receiver everywhere you go. So with my daughter going to Chicago, it's like I want her to know about everyone and everything that's around her. Because when she can start calling it out, when she sees someone and she knows that person is capable and she doesn't go to fear and she doesn't go to protection, she goes to the energy of acknowledgement, that's empowering. It also allows you time and space to be able to get yourself somewhere to be safe from that energy as well. Right? Like if I know someone in the subways has a gun and they're capable of shooting up the train, I probably want to get off at the next exit. And I want to pull enough energy from that person and acknowledge that enough that it scares that person, maybe to the point where they don't even choose that any longer. It's our knowing that is the capacity to create amazing things. It's time to stop making yourself wrong for what you know. It's time to untangle yourself from everyone that's told you that you're not allowed to know those things and that you can't say those things and that you're judgmental and you're wrong, because you're not. You are aware. And you have amazing abilities and amazing capacities that are there because it's a space of who you be. It is not a wrongness. You have been receiving information your whole life. And now's the time for you to allow yourself to step into that true receiver that you be. Yeah, just allow that to sink in. Allow your body to process that, and let's just tingle and unwind anywhere that you're cycling in this wrongness. You're not allowed to know. Now is the time. Now is the time to receive from everyone and everything. I mean, just think about this, you guys. If the whole world actually stepped into the receivers that we be, right? And everyone started just going around receiving from everyone and everything, you know what would change? Everything. People wouldn't die of loneliness anymore. People wouldn't get stuck in anger and rage and lash out and kill other people. Because let me tell you what, if someone's stuck in anger and rage and I know it and I acknowledge it and I pull and I receive, I actually become a different space for them. I actually become a different possibility for them. I actually change the energy, space, and consciousness in which they are vibrating at. Now, they do not have to choose it. They can totally choose that contraction right over again. But they were just offered a different space. But just think about this for a second. I am a receiver and then 50 other people are receivers and we're all at the grocery store. Man, we are going to pull and receive through that store. It's going to create everyone being the space of expansion. Just think about what could change if we were all the space of expansion. If we were all truly in the space of awareness and gifting and receiving to everyone. What could we change? What could we create? If we could acknowledge the system of judgment as just that, it's just a system that's kept us looping in the wrongness. You are not judgmental. You are aware. Yeah. I know that like everyone's kind of, there's a lot of vortexing going on. So, if you're finding yourself really, 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 truly stuck in a lot of judgment, I have a ton of programs that can really, 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 truly change that. Getting into this space where we get that everything we're functioning in our life is just a construct. We are the true creators of our reality. Nothing is real and true unless we continue to solidify it as so. When you start using your gifts and capacities to expand you actually really truly start to create a reality that works for you instead of against you. Reality hasn't really been a fan of expanding you in any way, shape, or form. This reality is by design to keep you wrong and keep you looping in your head in the wrongness. Even if we take someone who's capable of doing bad things, the thing is by pulling and receiving, you can offer them a different space. They don't have to choose it again. But it's the acknowledgement of them actually doing it that can actually create the change. Right? Again, like it goes right back to that same energy of like someone being an alcoholic. By acknowledging that and by actually receiving from them, I actually give them a different space of possibility. Oftentimes, people will become aware that someone's capable of doing something terrible, right? And they throw that terrible energy back at them and they hide and they protect themselves. And that actually creates more of an energy of terrible projection at them. Then they get caught in that loop of being terrible and actually perpetrating terrible things. Yeah. I know it's kind of like it's like a mind bender. But it's so true. You are the space of something different. You always have been. And it's time to use your capacities and your awarenesses to not only help you, but to actually create more for everyone. And I just want to say again Like, by pulling and receiving from everyone and everything, it creates such a different space for you to exist. Because then you're no longer resisting information all day. You're no longer exhausted from everything that you've learned and heard and perceived and felt all day long. All of a sudden, you just have this, you're just filled with this pure positive life force energy because you've just been pulling and receiving and out the other side. And it's like all day is this amazing journey of energy. There's not this slow, sluggish place where you have gotten caught in anyone else's stuff all day long. You just get to be you. And you are the gift. You are the space of something different. Yeah. This journey for me of really stepping into what I know and what I share, I should say, and what I know, it has been such an amazing expansion. When you get out of polarity, when you get out of viewpoints, when you get out of the right and the wrong and the good and the bad, all of a sudden the only thing that's present is awareness. And awareness creates freedom. Awareness creates a new space for you to be. Yeah. So that's my invitation today to you, is to just pulling and receiving and using the space of you to actually allow others to be the space of them, to actually allow more people to show up as who they want to be instead of what they're stuck in. So I guess we probably have a couple minutes left today. Yeah, so Colleen, do you have any questions for me today?
I don't have any questions. I'm boggled by I'll say awed by your talk today. Because so many of us are just boggled down with all the drama going around us. And this lesson in how to not let all that stuff get to you. You know, this is a very busy, fast-paced life, and everybody's here, there, and everywhere. So I thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, and everybody's got a lot of stuff going on, right?
Oh, yeah.
Then you're welcome. Yeah. And if you didn't have to, do anything with all their stuff and all of their crap that they're all in, and you could just actually just receive from it, it changes everything.
Yes, it does. Because, we feel like, oh, my gosh, we've got to help them. Or we've got to help somebody else understand this other person, so they can deal with it. And the whole time you're going like, blah, 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 blah. I don't know what to do here.
Yep. And pulling and receiving is totally the space of something different. But, man, it changes things.
Oh, yeah. Because you go like, okay, I don't have to deal with that. I don't have to take all that inside me. So
you can just receive it and be done with it.
Yeah. Acknowledge it, recognize it, and all of that, and say, okay, bye now.
Yep, pretty much. So, awesome. Well, thank you for that. And thank you, everyone, for listening to me babble today. And I look forward to talking to you all next week. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You have been listening to Expand Your Reality with your host, Jamie Bates. Thank you for listening.